everyone, and welcome to the thorough newspaper for today, that is the 31st of July 2023. Now, today we have two editorial articles, both of which have been taken from the Hindu. One is titled On Merit, and the second is a rap on the knuckles. For the second and the third segment of the day, we have the news update and the legal. Now, with respect to today's editorial article on merit, it deals with the Supreme Court's decision to grant bail to activists Vernon Gonsalves and Arun Ferreira, which demonstrates that how even under a stringent anti-terrorism law, that is the UAPA, denial of bail need not be the norm, which is the norm actually, and a preliminary assessment can lay bare the weakness of a police case. Now, for all of you, you are aware, I guess, that the UAPA has often been criticized as one of the most arcane anti-terrorism laws out there because it gives a lot of powers. It actually robs a lot of rights from the people who are incarcerated under this particular legislation. And ever since its enactment, it has been brought into the light and it has been criticized a lot. However, the central government has shown no inclination to amend the particular provisions of this act. And these laws are so strict that even the courts cannot go out of the way to, ensure that sometimes the rights of the people incarcerated or charged under this act is protected. Now, being charged under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, which is the UAPA and our official anti-terrorism law, makes it difficult to get bail. Under Section 43D, subsection 5, no court can grant bail if there are reasonable grounds to believe that the accusation is true. Now, based on a 2019 case, and this is also like the primary idea that surrounds UAPA or bail for that matter, is that when you're deciding on the bail, if you've ever seen a bail application or if you've seen how courts give bails, so in a bail proceedings, the entirety of the matter is not put forward in front of the court and then the same is debated. So when we are dealing with bail, as has been highlighted in this particular 2019 case, it has to be decided on the broad possibilities that this could constitute on the case. And keeping this in mind, the bail given to Vernon Gonsalves and Arun Ferreira is a significant achievement. Now, why is it so? Because in this particular bail order, there is a telling comment that has come from the court, which states that mere participation in seminars by itself cannot constitute an offense under the bail restricting sections of the 1967 Act, with which they have been charged. Now, one of the biggest criticisms of UAPA is that this law is being used against anyone and everyone by the central government to quell dissent. How does that work? So if you're holding a rally, you're being charged with UAPA. If you attend seminars which are against some of the policies of the central government, you're being charged with UAPA. These are the charges that have been brought against the central government, and all the oppositions have unanimously agreed that the central government is wielding UAPA like one mighty scepter of power against opposition to quell their dissent. Now, it is in light of these allegations that this particular statement from Supreme Court holds a magnanimous value. That is, just mere participation in seminars cannot be stated to be, like terrorist activities against the sovereignty of the state. In the latest order, a two-judge bench has now found that the letters and the witness statements, which were relied on by the National Investigating Agency to claim that Mr. Gonsalves and Mr. Ferreira were part of the conspiracy and recruitment of persons to commit terrorist act, did happen. These are of weak probative value and quality, and hence the bail was granted. Now, for the second article of the day, rap on the knuckles. It is a very shameful instance because the Supreme Court again reminded the central and the state governments that they have done deplorably little and have absolutely failed to stop mob lynching, mob violence, and vigilantism, especially on the marginalized sections of the society and on Muslims. Now, in Tehseen S. Poonawala versus the Union of India, the Supreme Court had categorically held that it was the sacrosanct duty of the state to protect the lives of the citizens. Further, it was also one of the most important duties of the state, both central and the state government here, to prevent vigilantism of any kind. However, with the increased number of cow vigilantes, especially within the northern India belt, this is coming under the judicial scrutiny, and this has come under the judicial scrutiny, and the Supreme Court has reminded the center and the state of the deplorable situation again. Now, with respect to this particular judgment, that is a Tehseen as Poonawala versus the Union of India, the Supreme Court had come up with guidelines back in 2018, which included the designation of a nodal police officer in each district. Now, what would happen is that these nodal police officers would take into consideration where the cow vigilantes were most active. They would draw up schemes to ensure that these places, these particular geographical areas, which were more prone to activism by the vigilantes, were safely protected, so that the minority communities, the Muslims, and the general citizens of India were protected from such vigilantism. And people who resorted to such activities, such wanton violence, would be meted out with just punishment. Now, the Home Ministry and the state governments were also coaxed to help sensitize law enforcement officials and warn the public in general about the consequences of engaging in mob violence or vigilantism. Now, the wanton violence against minorities is the present situation. It has been going on for some time now, but it is still being meted out for the only purported reason of transporting cattle for slaughter or cattle meat. Now, besides vigilantism, social and economic boycott of the minority community have also taken roots. Why is this? So, when we talk of vigilantism of this kind, there are two ways you can do. One, you can either go abuse the person, which is what is happening within the northern belt of India. With regard to places which don't have the same like the same political party at the center in the state, that there are opposition, like opposing parties on both the sides. What is happening is, because these particular vigilantes know that their activity will not be sheltered or will not be supported by the state government, they are resorting to social and economic boycott of these minority communities. The central and the state governments, on the other hand, have otherwise taken negligible steps to arrest these attacks. Now, while this is more prevalent in northern India, southern India to some extent has faced, even if we do consider cow vigilantism, it is not as frequent as northern India. Because in southern India, when such attacks do happen, the general mass of South India goes forward and holds the dominant political representatives accountable. This is the accountability that is missing in the northern belt of India, and hence the more increase of violence. Concerned civil society action has to be taken to stop such acts. It is always welcome from the judiciary to appoint nodal police officers to look into each of the districts, and then extra steps being taken by the Home Ministry and the state governments. But ultimately, we have to realize that as a society, as a civil society, we cannot allow our neighbors to get lynched or our neighbors to participate in lynching people. It is our concerted action that will finally force these people to stop such acts of violence against particular communities in where we live. So with this, we move on to the news updates for the day. Firstly, Bengaluru becomes the first Indian city to join the World Cities Culture Forum. Bangalore, which is the capital of Karnataka, became the first Indian city to become a part of the WCCF, which is the World Cities Culture Forum. It is a network which shares research intelligence and understanding how culture helps in driving prosperity. Now, the forum includes cities like New York, Paris, Tokyo, and Dubai, and it will work closely with Unboxing BLR Foundation, which is a not for profit initiative co founded by Prashant Prakash. Secondly, in a proud moment for India, we have Indian boxer Ashish wins ABF Continental Heavyweight Title. Indian pugilist Ashish Bandor defeated crowd favorite Akyaphob Aurian 5-1 to clinch the Asian Boxing Federation Continental Heavyweight Title. The judges' scores of 93 to 96, 95 to 96, and 95 to 94 reflected the intensity and tightness of the bout, with Ashish ultimately claiming the title by a split decision from the three judges. Ashish won the fiercely competitive bout in 10 rounds. Next up, we have the G20 Conference on Green and Sustainable Growth Agenda, which was convened by the Niti Aayog. So basically, the Niti Aayog convened a two-day G20 conference on the green and sustainable growth agenda for the global economy in New Delhi. This happened on the 28th of July. The aim of this conference was to examine prospects and challenges for green and sustainable growth globally. The Ayog, in a statement, highlighted that the first day of the workshop was focused on themes related to energy, climate, technology, policy, and reshaping the global finance for sustainable growth. The second day discussed several themes related to multilateralism as well as adjustment, resilience, and inclusion in an uncertain world. Next up, we have joint military exercise between Indian and Mongolian armies conclude. Indian Army soldiers from the Jammu and Kashmir Light Infantry Regiment and soldiers of the Mongolian Armed Forces Unit 084 participated in this particular exercise, which was known as Nomadic Elephant 23. The primary theme of the exercise focused on counterterrorism operations in in mountainous terrains under United Nations mandate. The scope of this exercise involved platoon-level field training exercises. Exercise Nomadic Elephant 23 is another significant milestone in the defense cooperation between the Indian Army and the Mongolian Army, which has the potential of further fostering bilateral relations between the two nations. Next up, we have Mahindra and Mahindra buy a 3.5% stake in the RBL Bank. Diversified business conglomerate Mahindra and Mahindra has picked up a 3.53% stake in the private sector lender RBL Bank for rupees 417 crores. The authorities of Mahindra and Mahindra have stated that although they are looking to buy more stake in the RBL Bank, subject of course to regulatory approval, such such a share of acquisition would not cross 9.9%. Now, the Reserve Bank of India's norm caps non-promoter shareholding except supranational institutions, public sector undertaking, or government, either natural persons or non-financial institutions in the bank at 10%. For the international segment of the day, we have Ireland secure spot in ICC Men's T20 World Cup 2024. Ireland became one of the two teams to seed in ICC Men's 2020 World Cup 2024, the second team being Papua New Guinea, birthed from the ongoing Europe qualifier following a washout against Germany. The match between Ireland and Germany was completely suspended because of the rains. Ireland remained unbeaten throughout the tournament, having registered victories against Italy, Denmark, Austria, and Jersey before their clash against Germany. This means after 5 games, Ireland now has a total of 9 points with one more game remaining against Scotland. For the legal updates of the day, we have non-participation in a proceeding of restitution of conjugal rights have civil consequences. The Honorable Supreme Court in the case of Poonam Anjur Pawar versus Ankur Ashokbhai Pawar observed that the non-participation in a proceeding of restitution of conjugal rights has civil consequences. The court took note of Order 21, Rule 32 of the Code of Civil Procedure, which deals of the execution of a decree of specific performance for restitution of conjugal rights or for an injunction. Secondly, we have doctor's license cannot be suspended by court as penalty in contempt proceedings. Now, again, the Supreme Court, in the case of Koshko Bihari Das versus Deepak Kumar Sanyal and others, has held that a medical practitioner's license could not be suspended as penalty in contempt proceedings. This is because the suspension of license to practice falls under the jurisdiction of the National Medical Commission Act of 2019. So this was all for today. For free study materials and TNA PDF slides, please join our Telegram channel, the link of which you can find in the description given below, or you can always scan the barcode that is given on your screen. Don't forget to subscribe our channel on YouTube to stay up to date with the current affairs that is published every single day. Thank you.